this safe country. Truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have any this decade that doesn't any troops dying anywhere in the world.
Okay, here we are.
President Trump.
Rubber Chicken Party live.
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up. You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you. I want to follow up. You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
Not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. Just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back. And he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. They don't know what they were doing. It was the worst administration in history. There's never been. And as far as Afghanistan is concerned, I was.
Oh yeah, I'm live already, and I'm getting.
We're getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out.
We're gonna go ahead and share that on Facebook real quick.
Of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national
If
debt
my
soared
computer
to
would
record
cooperate.
highs. And according to new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire.
And then we'll go ahead and get started. Sorry, we're a little quiet here at the beginning, but we'll get going.
Facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt. Why should top earners?
My laptop's moving a little slowly.
Less in taxes than they do now.
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred that tax.
There we go. Post to Facebook.
We cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate
And here we go.
to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. And companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was growing like never before. And we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet. We were going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID. We did a lot to fix it. I gave
So, as I said,
situation with
today's working. We're going to be trying to invoke a rubber chicken, or the rubber chicken, onto the debate stage. Now, I didn't get a large one just yet, but as I said in the video, all rubber chickens are linked to the concept of the rubber chicken, which is a very old joke that no one completely understands. Much like our political system, and most especially the Electoral College. Now, I began voting for the rubber chicken back in 2000, and things have just gotten crazier and more absurd ever since. And hopefully, we're going to be able to invoke some of that absurdity onto the stage tonight. And
millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country,
invoke
and destroy our country.
rubber chicken onto the stage.
Later in this block, President Biden, I want to give you an opportunity.
I'm not making a lot of sense at the moment. Give me just a second.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two.
Okay.
$2 trillion
So,
benefited the very wealthy.
we are literally trying to invoke the rubber chicken into the candidates. I do have my opinion as to which one is more vulnerable, but we will invoke the rubber chicken into whichever candidate we are able. Now, I do want to say, I've been saying vote rubber chicken. Now, if one of these candidates suddenly starts dancing around like a chicken on stage, that is not actually an endorsement from the Rubber Chicken Party. I just want to be clear on that. Again, I'm not going to disclose who I'm voting for in this election, but vote rubber chicken.
everything we had to do with, look, if we finally get
This
Medicare,
particular
President,
cigarette,
President
of
Trump.
course, for legal purposes, is something that is legal in our
Medicare,
state,
treated to death,
but it
and
is
just
rolled
Medicare, because all of these people are
with
coming in,
licorice flavored
putting them on
papers.
Medicare, they're putting them on
And the
Social
reason that I
Security
chose
that
those
destroys
is
Social
that
Security.
licorice
This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people
is
coming in,
something that's very
they're trying
often
to put
used
them
in
on Social
domination work.
Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame what's happened to our country
Now,
in the last 4 years.
well, we have one
is
talking
not
on
to be
stage,
believed.
and I have
Foreign
the
countries, I'm friends with a lot
licorice
of people.
going.
They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This is the first presidential election since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the
Buck,
federal
buck, buck,
government
buck,
still
buck,
plays a
buck,
role
buck, buck,
in
buck,
whether
buck, buck,
women
buck,
have
buck, buck, buck,
access
buck, buck, buck,
to
buck, buck,
abortion
buck, buck,
pills.
buck, 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 buck,
They're
buck,
used in about
buck, 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 buck,
2/3 of all
buck, buck, buck,
abortions.
buck,
As
buck, buck, buck,
president,
buck,
would
buck,
you
buck, buck,
block
buck.
abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just
Okay, let's
approved
see
the
if we
abortion
can.
bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex but not really complex. 51 years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, and getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor,
There we go.
he was
Got him
willing
saying
to do
something.
this. He said, "We'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby."
I
Meaning
mean,
we'll kill the baby.
said that one before, but
What happened is we brought it back to the states. And
provable
the country
lie.
is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
it's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported
Okay.
Roe when it was decided. Supported
Now on the
Roe.
left hand.
And that's this idea that they're all against it. It's just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the states should be able to have it. We're a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in they talk about that. But here's the deal: there's a lot of young women being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous, and they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border. We have a border that's the most dangerous place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our
that's
country.
right. I have 2 chickens.
And they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states.
Okay, so
This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal.
it's going to be a pretty boring live if I just stand here staring, meditating at 2 chickens.
Legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy.
I supported Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. A third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making
A joke I must live with for President Man. I'm tired of watching fools with their in their hands.
In the 9th month and even after birth, because some
Oh,
states,
you know what? That invocation isn't going to work out quite well. Let's start that again. Like I said, I do have to wing it, and so far I'm having I'm coming up with a little bit of trouble getting a chicken to fly. So, but we're working on it.
Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance.
A joke I must live with for Mr. President Man. I'm tired of watching old men with in their hands. I'd prefer my loyal chicken performed all the ops. And if you don't fix it, I'm calling the cops. Call your congressman now and quickly demand the vote style needs changing throughout the land. Send him a chicken, both rubber and pale. Send it now quickly. Send it through the veil, not by mail. Don't let your ballot box burn. Don't let your vote burn in ballot box hell. Stretch the chicken and swing it round.
Thank you.
And where it touches, it might make a sound. So bring the words and fly the flow, and let the poetry go where it knows. Bring the things that twist the tails, and tell them all to leave their cells. The wind it blows, the fire glows, and all that ever was to know. Let us bring the fire in and bring the rubber as it spins. Stretch the chicken, choke its neck, choke your chicken, stricken wet. Now we know how does it flow to bring the thing that brings the no. Bring the chicken into Trump and Joe.
Since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border legally. It's better than
As I said when I started this bed, I no longer know where the chicken will go, but the rubber stretches and stretches and stretches and finds a place inside its meshes.
I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border.
Bring the things that know the tale. Stretch the chicken, both rubber and pale.
Open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number
Okay.
of terrorists coming into our country right now. All terrorists, all over.
Bring the
world, not
licorice
just in
back
South
in.
America, all over the world, they come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world. They're pouring in, and this guy just left it open, and he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said close the border. We have the safest border in history. In the final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who was great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything
Did he just
like
say
it.
Brandon?
And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming out in
Thank you, President
caravans.
Trump. President Biden.
The only terrorist.
One of them starting to get a bit worked up, and happened to mention the name Brandon. I didn't bring any of the stuff to invoke Dark Brandon. I'll have to remember that for the next debate, perhaps.
Killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through with the idea that welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating. He's lying.
President Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. And it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous...
Got to use some protection right now.
Policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant
Okay,
crime.
that's better.
I call it Biden.
There's definitely some
They're killing our citizens
reflection
at a
back,
level
as I've
we've
warned
never
before,
seen.
as I've talked about myself before, when working with things that are connected to a lot of people. It's the same reason it's very difficult to win the lottery. There's a lot of hopes and dreams and intents going towards that lottery. Well, there's a lot of thought, intentions, and things like that going towards both of these candidates as well. And I think that that's a big part of the reason of what just happened. But I just suddenly got a huge headache. And then I used the dream door and connected back to my higher self and through some protection and reattached to the anchor point that I have here as someone, well, not an anchor point as in the ghost stuff, but an anchor point as in an end point for that energy to go to. I reconnected to those things and the headache immediately went away.
And now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether it was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And he opposed.
I don't know if you got any who else is watching the debate, but Trump just went like that, which was kind of fun.
My son spent a year in Iraq. Living right next to one of those burn pits. Came back.
Again, if one of these presidents acts, one of these people starts acting more like a chicken than the other, I am not endorsing that person, especially if it's Trump, frankly. I'm not endorsing either candidate, but I'm certainly not endorsing Trump.
He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers.
I am endorsing a rubber chicken.
You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about a veteran? Nobody's taking better care. I'm so glad this came up. And he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
Four-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period. That's number one. And number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Topic of foreign policy. I want to
So
begin with
so
Russia's
far, not a whole lot of
against
effects.
Ukraine, which is now in
The
its
anger is rising in both candidates. They're both getting quite riled up. I can't necessarily say that's because I'm over here stroking my chicken and choking it, but
its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable?
that is what's going on. That's what we're going to take advantage
And our
of.
soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him.
So
They
we're
think
going to
he's the
focus
worst
on the
commander
color
in chief.
red.
That's what you call him. That we've
Put
ever had.
the chicken
Can't
on my
stand him.
right hand
Let's get
because
that straight.
Trump
And they
is
like
the one
me more
speaking
than
right
just
now.
about any of them.
And even
that's
though he's on the
basically
right,
every
left
single
hand
bit
of the
information.
stage, he is the
As far as
right
Russia and
candidate.
Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13
Stretch the
beautiful
chicken,
soldiers,
leave
and
him
38
pale.
soldiers were
Let
obliterated.
his
By the
wings
way, we left people behind, too.
flap
We left
and
American
flail.
citizens behind. When
Anger
Putin saw that, he
rise.
said, "You know what? I think we
Seize
can
the
go in there,
prize,
maybe take
but be
my
denied
position."
before your
Talk
eyes.
to him about it. His dream.
Rubber
The difference
chicken,
is
you
he
are
never
stricken.
would have invaded
Spread your
Ukraine.
wings and
Never.
say the things
Just
that
like
make you
Israel
sound
has
like
never been invaded
from the ground
in a
and
million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything. No money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden.
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran.
Uh-oh, we're going to tear through this chicken pretty soon here.
I'm
I'm not sure if you guys can hear that or not.
And he did nothing about it recently.
Hello, Gerardo Castillo. Oh, I haven't really acknowledged anybody that's chatting. Sorry. Hi, Felix. Hi, FTF6. I have no idea how you would pronounce that. FTF. We'll call you FD. Okay.
Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where
There's 6 of you now. I mean,
what Trump did in Ukraine.
so
This guy told Ukraine, he told
I
Trump,
said we're going to
"Do whatever you
focus
want.
for now
Do whatever
on
you want."
building
That's exactly what Trump did.
anger.
Putin encouraged him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish. Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He didn't when they would get it done.
Oh.
And they've lost over.
First chicken clocked.
500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I
I'm gonna
never
go back
said
to you
that.
for 1 minute. I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable? to
Okay.
you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine.
Gonna go back to one of these
But look,
licorice.
this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, He led everybody along.
Sticks.
He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion.
Indeed, he did say malarkey.
I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky,
You can see the anger on his face.
$60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him.
Biden,
I'm not
I mean.
knocking anything. I'm only saying
Trump as well,
the money
actually.
that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending. It should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think
Indeed.
he'll stop there? You think he'll stop when he...
It's funny, the heart thing's in the way. Getting more orange in the face for a while. He is.
What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine and from weapons we make here in the United States, we give them the weapons,
Oh,
not the money at this point.
starting to swallow.
And our NATO allies have produced as much.
Trump, he did like this
funding for
swallow
Ukraine as
thing.
we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on.
Starting to jerk his head about like a chicken a
In
bit.
October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a
Hello, Marion Residue.
to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Israel?
Just a moment. I'm gonna go ahead and answer this.
To the Israelis.
Oh, I'm on a live.
Endorse the plan I put forward.
All right, I'm watching the debate and summoning the rubber chicken onto the debate stage.
The hostages for a ceasefire.
Yeah, but I can't really talk on the phone. I'm on a live. Get on YouTube and talk to me.
No, the end of
Okay,
the war.
bye.
The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas. Number one, they're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get.
That was my little brother.
In the meantime, what's happened in Israel? We're finding the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. By the way, I'm the guy that organized.
He's known about rubber chicken since the beginning.
Had a full-blown ballistic missile
Okay.
attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was
Now,
actually killed.
I'm gonna go ahead and bring Manatello into the working.
We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to continue. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like
So we
did
can try and get a
Bahrain.
more
We
direct
don't have
link.
to do it. And by the way,
Since of course we don't have any,
greatly weakened, and they
direct
should be.
DNA link to either candidate.
But you've got to be careful.
So we have to use a go-between
Population centers.
like Manatello.
Just getting back to Ukraine.
I've been trying to influence the whole situation and try to get the rubber chicken in through one of them that way.
European nations together have
We're gonna
spent
up things a little more now.
or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them? So you got to put up your money like I did with NATO. I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any. They were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all. You got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them as far as Israel and Hamas. Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? You're going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe. What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places.
My prediction, Gerardo?
No idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support.
I hate to say that because that's kind of like me endorsing. And this is all pretty freaking far out of, we're talking politics, and I really shouldn't be.
President Trump, just to follow up,
But
would you support the creation
that's
of
where we're at.
Palestine
I mean, there are a few reasons why I feel like we have to be involved in this. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about that just a little bit. One of these candidates has brought a guy named Nick Fuentes over to have dinner. Yeah. And there's lots of bad things. Yeah. But there is one. Oh, he says lots of bad things about different people. However you feel about this particular character. If you're watching this live, you are at least interested in sorcery. And he very literally said he wants to bring back burning people at the stake. So that's actually when it was clear back when that happened that I decided I have to be at least a little bit involved in what's going on in a more open way. This is the first thing I've done this way. I'm going to try and keep myself from being directly involved in politics. Of course, with the AWAS stuff, we're going to be talking about environmental factors and, well, social rights issues about different categories of people that aren't being treated fairly. So that's going to happen. But I am going to try to avoid to tell people, telling people who to vote for, because I feel like that's just icky. It's just icky. Even though I am at the same time telling you what to vote for. But again, I don't endorse either one of these candidates. I personally am very terrified by one of them and what he would do if he got back in office. So I think that made it pretty clear. But
on January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people. But what happened to the United States' reputation under this man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You have 80 seconds left. My question was, what do you say to those voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath?
So far, nothing really crazy. But these guys are going to be on for a while, and they are old.
I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, like they say, but she's saying, oh, no, my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor of
Okay, look at this. We got a bubble inside the head.
The mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
Look, he encouraged those folks to go up on Capitol Hill, number one.
We're going to take.
I sat in the dining room off
If you've seen the video on chakras, I have talked before about my poison elbow, which is a chakra that I made over time of focus. And most of the time, what it's used for, and mostly what I talk about in that video, is that it is used to help me feel when someone is cursing me. It'll actually feel a small prick in my elbow if someone has managed to get that close in.
I don't know how many cases.
But
Scores of cases.
another
The Supreme
thing
Court,
that
they
it is
said-
for
They said, no.
is
This
to
guy-
gather
This guy is responsible.
that
for doing
energy.
that was done. He didn't do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the
Okay.
National Guard. They heard that. They saw
Let's
that
try and bring the
coming, and they
licorice
left
back again.
immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically
Unfortunately, like I said, I do have to wing it for this. So those of you that have been sticking with me, I really appreciate you.
They destroyed
Um,
and deleted
eventually we're going to come up with a better plan, hopefully, as this continues. But at least for this first debate, I specifically had to wing it. Like I said in the video, unfortunately, I also forgot some of the chickens I intended to have with me.
And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots? Come on. When I asked him about the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boy? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing to, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? Will you denounce the people who attacked that Capitol? What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have. After a jury convicted you of 34 felonies last month, you said if reelected, you would, quote, have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times. Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything.
I'm not supposed to be commenting on the debate itself.
Having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one. Number two, the idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with. And think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You're the moles on Alley Cat.
Your minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the—
Why not comment on the debate? Because I don't really want to be giving my political opinions
We had a very
on the
terrible
debate,
judge, a
on
horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor—
unless they say something about something that actually relates
and
to
both the civil
AWA concerns or sorcery.
basically went after his political opponent because
I don't
he
know.
thought it was going to damage
I feel
him.
it's a little odd.
Found out about these cases because they understand it better than he does. He has no idea what these
Kind of like I
cases
said
are.
earlier, kind of
But when
icky.
when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it, and we took in more money.
But one of these guys keeps lying and just making up stuff, and I keep wanting to comment on that.
Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam, and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of—
You can see
I don't know what the juries will do.
Trump getting, look, he's starting to make more and more crazy facial expressions. He's starting to get a little weirder. Yeah, he's not going to be it. I don't know if either one of them is going to be able to endure 2.5 hours, whether I was here with the chicken or not.
In Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The people the ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the one," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas?
May have to move over to the cord here in a bit.
We've done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. He said, this guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
Jake, both of you know that story has been totally wiped out because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is, without question, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every anchor every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just
That he said,
it came out where it was
I can't help it.
debunked.
He's claiming that he didn't say there was good people on both sides.
He didn't run because
Is he really trying to say that?
Excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunk. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time.
Yeah, I heard him.
Somehow that's the only reason I ran. I ran
Okay.
because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president at all. And the idea that he's talking about all this being fabricated, we saw with our own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th. We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice
Okay,
president.
so let's
There's a
see.
reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused
Got
to
man to
endorse
tell
him.
you here.
His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Thank you, President Biden. We're going to be right back with more on the presidential debate.
Okay, so they're I guess clearing the stage for a minute here. We'll talk a little bit more about what it is exactly that we are doing here with the Rubber Chicken Party today. So, as I said before, in the video of this, the Rubber Chicken Party happened as a result of the popular vote and the electoral vote having a difference in the first time I ever voted, 2000 with Al Gore versus George W. Bush. I voted for Al Gore. There was a whole bunch of election confusion, and well, it upset me very greatly, made me feel very disenfranchised, and resulted in me writing a poem and doing a bunch of stuff about the rubber chicken with the intention of creating a working to eliminate the Electoral College. So that's where this started. And since then, I have been campaigning for the rubber chicken every year. As you see on the video, I don't have much of my gear anymore because it was a long time ago. I used to have a full rubber chicken suit that I would wear with a American flag tie, and I'd go to different clubs and stuff, especially around election time and campaign. I even had a little Uncle Sam hat that I would sometimes wear with the rubber chicken outfit, or other times I just wore the hat. But either way, this is something I did a lot, and part of it was fun. Yes, it was very fun to go out and campaign for rubber chicken, but also, the more I get the idea out there, the more the more I get this idea in people's minds, the farther that web is spread. And, all the people that I tell vote rubber chicken, they go home and tell their friends, I met this crazy guy at the bar the other night telling me all about why I should vote rubber chicken, and it spreads the little bit that it does. And, well, frankly, things have become more and more absurd since I started. And I did try to set it down a few times. There's a few times I have myself voted something besides rubber chicken, either because I found there was a compelling reason to do so, or because, well, the very first election, I hadn't thought to vote rubber chicken yet. Well, like I said, because there's a compelling reason to do so. This particular election, like I said, I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to say who I'm going to vote for. But I do feel there's a compelling reason not to vote for someone that is, well, like I said, I mentioned Nick Fuentes earlier, and he's actually had Nick Fuentes at his house. Someone who has re-endorsed the idea of burning witches at the stake. So I do feel that I have every right to say, hey, I don't like that. So I'm not going to remind everyone who it was that had Kanye West and Nick Fuentes down to their house. I almost said in the state, but we all know. I'm not going to be that facetious. Anyways, so I do have a preference, I suppose, but I'm not working from that angle today. I am simply working from the angle that I know works. And that is that ever since I started voting rubber chicken, well, first we had the Tea Party and all that start up and all the absurdity, and it started from there, and it just snowballed over time. I mean, you can remember the trajectory if you think back from the beginning of the Tea Party, and people like to wear teas bags on the side of their hat and all the silliness that happened there, and it just kept snowballing more and more. And the more I voted rubber chicken and went out campaigning rubber chicken, the crazier things got. Maybe I'm just riding the flow. Maybe I'm influencing it some. I don't really know. All I know is, at this point, I don't dare put the rubber chicken down because the rubber snaps back. So, at least not until I'm ready for that rubber to snap.
Number 3, we're providing housing for black.
So let's see.
And dealing with
This is the one that already has a hole in its head. We're going to start with him.
These corporate operations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact.
If you're not realizing why this
choice that black families have to
is
make
intended to be their heartbeat.
Is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce black child care costs, cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for child care costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide that child care protection, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. but we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting them, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame you for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and the Black individuals who provided had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right. It's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. It's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled, and tripled, and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore.
Okay.
He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New Scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the Black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking Black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking Black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
There was no inflation when I became president. You know why? The economy was flat on its back. 50% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for who were in all communities, including sure that they had health insurance. I made sure that there were $8,000 per this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants we put more police on the street than any administration has.
Tarakumbo azila nangoyam nanguru zandrane uru ambed harakundo azaranandorum nunguru andem nunguru azanu angu alotrabum. Just a moment. Answer the phone again. Hello, mother. What's up? I'm on a live with on YouTube. What's up?
Just go back to what he said about the police.
Yes. Did you need something?
The police, almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump. Almost every police group. And what he's done to the
That is horrific. I can't believe that's not surprising. That's. But I'm on a live. I will talk to you about it. I will talk to you about it later.
And he called it to him, and they've taken
Yeah. I'm on a live, so you're watching me, and then you called me. Okay. Well, I love you, Mom.
Criminal justice reform.
Okay.
And for the
Bye.
historically Black.
That was my mother. She's a bit silly.
Where I funded them and got them funded.
Actually,
And opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott. Incredible. He did a great job.
I just want to. I'm not going to say names or anything, but we are going to be talking about some of the religions out there very soon, and that call actually reminded me about that, because in the Mormon religion there's a thing called baptismal of the dead, where after someone has died, you can go in and do the works to have them pulled into your kingdom of Mormonism. And they say, oh well, they're given a choice, they're given the option, but that's anyways, we'll get to that later. This life isn't on Mormonism, but it's a very disturbing thing.
to slow the climate crisis.
So I want absolute.
Except for that, when you consider that Mormonism has one of them where they believe there's levels of heaven, and the people in the first level serve the people at the top. And when you do the baptismal of the dead, you're bringing people in to that bottom level. So it's, anyways, we will get to that in another video. We are on rubber chicken party stuff. And like I said, people keep coming in and out of this. I want to remind anyone watching this, I did have to wing it for this, and I didn't bring as many props as I intended to either.
Climate change legislation in history.
Props.
We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges. I came up with $50 billion.
So it's not as entertaining as it might have intended to be.
They don't have the kind of contributors that they have to build these laboratories and the like.
I've done this with other lives, or not other lives, other debates in the past when I had a preferred candidate. I did things to affect certain candidates. And actually, I've had a pretty good success rate with this as well. I've done a lot of workings with the rubber chicken since the year 2000, and here it is, 2024. So that's 24 years I've been working on this spell.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treated us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything.
Okay, I need to focus more on what I'm actually doing and less on being entertaining.
For the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And I have the biggest heart on the stage, I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything if we're not able to? The United States can't get it under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We've made significant progress, and we continue to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people who learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company,
So every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Social Security just over 10 years. Will you name
Halakuro anzara nandilam nanggora harakindo anzara nanzelo abut
6% of their income, of their paycheck, every
harakundo la para nanzelo habum.
I'm not going to propose the millionaires pay 1%. So no one after I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep Social Security solvent, or is that one enough?
Well, no, that one enough will keep it solvent, but the biggest thing we'll do if we defeat this man, because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare. both times. And that's what, and if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that he, I believe, supports, is in fact wanting to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous.
JB Trails. I'm sorry. I think it's probably been there for a while, but you seem to be asking me a question. Need on? I don't know.
Where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is, in a situation where we're talking about education for Black communities, I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year is going to be able to get $15,000 towards the tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. About so many other things too.
Oh, Rambo's on a guide.
We mentioned Russia.
He's Umbra.
Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation.
Oh, you got to be kidding me. Okay. At least I didn't comment in English. Like I said, I'm trying not to make comments, but if there's anyone that's ever the case that accusation is actually an admission, it's the guy that just accused the other guy of being a liar.
What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
President Biden.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of, I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged that. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was on stage in church. Number one. Number two, the idea successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony. And by the way, worst president in history, 150 United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of President Biden have tried to address this issue. But the average cost of childcare in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of childcare for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make childcare more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. He said that. That's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You pay a price for it. They were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put him there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. He didn't fire. Did you fire anybody? Did you fire anybody that's on the border that's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world? Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant. He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think we just can't let it happen. If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
The amount of
Thank you, President.
fear mongering.
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America. There's nothing beyond our capacity. We're the finest military in the history of the world, the finest in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst president in American history, one through best to worst. They said he was the worst in all of American history. That's a fact. That's not conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care. He did for virtually nothing to child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of women and men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was about what would you do?
Okay.
To make it more affordable?
Well, like I said, people are coming and going from the live. And those of you here now, I want to remind you that I am winging it
And they rate me, I'll show you.
with the rubber chicken.
They rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody,
Okay.
2 of you are going to pay 4 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my
Let's
life,
see,
I've
we've
grown
been
up
live
politicians
for
talking about cutting
1
taxes.
hour and 7 minutes now.
As I said, we did more business. Apple and all these
I don't
companies.
remember exactly how long the debate's going to
money
go.
back into our country. The worst
According to
president
this,
in
we're
history by far, and everybody knows
more than
it.
halfway through.
Look, fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong
I'm
about.
going to keep
He's
watching it.
increased the tariff. He will increase the taxes on middle class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariff.
No, Felix, I haven't seen anything that makes me feel like I was accomplished yet. I think we could we'll probably just go ahead and keep going.
$2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference.
I'm concerned I'm not all that entertaining on this, but I said I was going to go live during the debate. Here we are. We will get back to our regularly scheduled programming after this. I don't know if I'll do one of these during the next debate or not.
Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally
We will
change our
see.
country. You have the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, to have not, in fact,
If we do another one of these, I'm going to try to get around the idea that I have to wing it. Since, well, every time I've ever done a rubber chicken spell on a debate, because to be clear, this is not the first time I've done a rubber chicken spell on a debate. This is the first time I've done one live. During the first debates of the Obama administration, I had a rubber chicken that actually was filled with little beads, and the beads inside of it happened to be little eggs, like egg-shaped beads, and they even had a little bit of they're a bit sharper on the end, so because they were oval-like, and I was actually able to push them out through the side of the chicken, and would pull one out anytime that anything. Well, whenever I focused on a thing, I would get someone that I wanted to either do well in the debate or do poorly, and I would focus on pulling that egg out of the skin through the rubber during the debate, or whatever thing it was that I was aiming at. And, well, I was pretty successful in that working, in my opinion. But I didn't have what wasn't being filmed live, and it certainly wouldn't have been very entertaining. It would have just been me sitting there squeezing on the side of a chicken. So, but
to do what they're doing to us as a country, they are killing us as a country.
Yeah.
Joe, and you
So
can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So,
Let's
President
see.
Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was,
Um,
what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well in addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border it started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog. That's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women
an interesting
across our border.
tidbit
The worst thing I've ever seen
of American history
nobody's ever seen under him because
is
the
that
ones
an
over
eagle
but the number of drugs
was
coming
not
across our
the
border
only
now
animal
is the largest
considered
we've ever had.
as our national animal.
Thank you, President Biden.
In fact,
Fentanyl and
Benjamin
black
Franklin,
fentanyl went down.
one of our founding fathers,
I
and one
wanted
of the
to
few
make
that was
sure
smart,
you understand
and one that was smart enough to never even want to be president, he suggested that it should be a turkey, specifically a wild turkey, which is very different than a domesticated turkey. And anyone who has familiar with hunting them would tell you they are actually quite wily and intelligent creatures. But anyways, I bring that up so that it is in mind
We need those machines.
for
We
this
need
next
those
part.
machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do.
Because
we need those machines.
Thank you, President
even
Biden.
though this is
President Trump, again,
vote
the
rubber
question is
chicken,
about Americans in the throes of addiction right now, struggling to get the treatment.
especially where it's two people debating on a stage here in America. And I actually just the other day saw two turkeys gobbling at each other and was able to get them gobbling at each other real loud by doing this. Perhaps
every time we say a hostage, now we have a
we can
hostage,
work
a
this
Wall
in as
Street
well.
Journal reporter. And he's over there because he's laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars. I'll have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said literally as soon as I win the election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago. But Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time.
Interesting.
We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. People out, and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump.
Let's turn to concerns that voters have about each of you. President Biden, you would be 86 at the end of your second term. I would address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world.
Well, first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. I've turned around the hardest situation indefinitely. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. The whole idea of computer chips. We used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and then bring home a product. So I went to South Korea. I convinced Samsung to invest billions of dollars here. In the United
Okay,
States.
so
And
let's see. Rubber chickens that are still alive. There's one with a hole in its head.
To build these chips. Those fabs.
And there should be one more right here somewhere.
Don't need the college degree for them.
That
And
is
billions, about $40
not torn
billion
apart.
already being invested and being built right now in the United States.
Do-do-do.
Significant jobs for Americans.
We may have an evasive rubber chicken.
President Biden,
One that didn't want to be president, eh?
would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow.
Nope, found him. He did not escape after all.
I've never heard a president talk like this before. With the end of the world, maybe a single major country president who is very close to the United States of America. For all our problems and all our opportunities. We're the most progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong Un, he sends love letters to, Putin, etc. They don't want to screw around with us.
Thank you. For President Trump to follow up, you would be 82 at the end of your second term. What do you say to voters who have concerns about your capabilities to serve?
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just one, a real easy one. Like go through the first 5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, you know, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood, that I'm in very good health. I just won 2
Starting to sound like a heartbeat even.
2 regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way. And I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was 25, 30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they'd never seen anybody ace them.
Thank you. President Biden.
Because you can't
You can see he is
Ace.
6'5" and only 223 pounds, or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's what anyway, just take a look at what he says he is and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
That's the biggest rider. He's a 6 handicap of all.
I was at 8 handicap.
Yeah.
8. But I had,
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay,
Let's not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to turn
Let's not act like children.
to a specific concern that voters have about you.
There we go. We're starting to give them a little.
That once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that
We're
you
starting to get
will
people
accept
getting
the
a
results
little
of this election, regardless of who wins.
acting
And
absurd.
you will
I thought
stay
this,
right next
honestly,
to political
I thought this was
rivals
going to be a lot
anymore.
crazier than it was, even if I didn't do
Well, you
anything.
have to say that, but of course
So,
I believe that.
I don't know
It's
how I
totally
feel about the
unacceptable.
results of this
And
particular
you would see my statements
working.
on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden. You would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition
to
the
be
speech
honest
I made
about
in
results.
front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've
So
ever
far,
spoken to, and I will tell you,
there is some
nobody
debate
talks
left.
about that. They talk about
I mean, we
the
had
enormous number
Trump
of people
moving
that
his
went
head
to the
about
Capitol, and in many
like a
cases
turkey
were
or a
ushered
chicken
by
a few
police. And
times.
as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear.
But
But
nothing
the answer is
real
the
crazy.
election is fair.
In fact,
and I want that
more
than
sane than
anybody.
I expected
And I'll tell you something.
so far.
I wish
We're
I was
not done
the
yet.
president, because I
We're not
wouldn't be
done
here
yet.
right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political appointment,
Especially with some of the stuff I've saw in the past. I mean, we got a guy elected that's got a big coxcomb on top of his head that acted like a nutcase. Got elected. I certainly didn't vote for him. But you know what I mean. Someone suddenly showed up that had crazy hair like a coxcomb. I was like, oh my God. And that's not the only thing. There's been a bunch of stuff. Like I said, if you remember, there was Rubber Chicken actually wound up floating above the White House for a while there. There was, I've seen Rubber Chicken show up in many places. A lot of it I've realized could be, some of it could be biased by me wanting to see the result. For some reason, I can't remember that word right at this moment. But
You want a World War III.
results bias, but that's not the word.
Follow and win and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. Attack on one is attack on all. Required response. The idea The idea. I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done, what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful peace because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people.
Confirmation bias. Thank you. That was bugging the hell out of me. Confirmation bias. Yes, it's exactly the thing. But there has been a lot, enough that it can't necessarily can all be explained by that.
President Trump,
Except for that I've been watching for it for 25 years
the
now.
question was, will you accept the results
At any
of
rate,
this election,
here
regardless
we
of
go.
who wins?
This might be.
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. Not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia. Because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad. They've lost so many people, and they've lost those gorgeous cities with the golden domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins? Yes or no, please.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week, or we'll have another one of these in a week. But I will absolutely, there's nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again. I wasn't really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else in a nice location someplace. And again, no indictments, no political opponents stuff.
Okay.
Because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them up to a very high level because the people understand it.
Let's see what your numbers are when this election is over. Let's see. You're a whiner. When you lost the first time, you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one
Nothing too
single
absurd
court in
there,
America said any of your claims had any merit, state or local, none. But you continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There's no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepted anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back with more.
Okay, so we're on the break again.
Live from Georgia.
Like I said, there is some still to go. This was a bit ambitious of an undertaking, but we'll see how it goes. Those of you that are still with me watching, thank you. I appreciate your patronage. Yeah, we're on a break now. So we will be getting back to the Dream Door with the AWAS stuff soon. We do have one more video before that where we're going to talk about the Making Your Mentor, which will be, well, very much that. But it'll be very simple. We'll just be making a basic clay head. You know, you can be as simple as making a ball of mud, poking two eyes and a smiley face in it. It simply needs to be an anchor point, but that needs to be done, and you need to be prepared so that when you have the Dream Door, it is of value to you. But anyways, that's not actually today's live. the rubber chicken stuff, I actually have a lot of things on this in the past. I had this whole thing about Deacon Pope Art, The Strange, and Deacon Dead Guy. This was one of my earlier things where I would write dialogues between the two. Trying to remember some of the funnier parts of it. Unfortunately, like I said, I had to wing it today. So a lot of this has been pretty ridiculous, I suppose. There's been a lot of me watching the TV while I play with rubber chickens in a vaguely esoteric manner. Never tried to do this type of working live before, but figured it was worth a shot. This won't be the only rubber chicken working that I do during this political season. I don't know how many more of them will be put on my YouTube channel, but if you follow me on Facebook, you'll definitely be seeing many more memes about the rubber chicken party. At least to the end of this election, and then maybe I can finally let go of this thing. I don't know. Like I said, at this point, I have a piece of rubber by the tail. Or a rubber ball very high up in the air, however you want to think about that. Interesting thing about long-term spell work. Sometimes with long-term spell work, it's very, very difficult to let go of, especially when it's one you have a lot of emotions and thoughts and all kinds of things wrapped up into, like I do with the rubber chicken party. As silly and as absurd as it is, it's okay.
We've made
Back.
significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he finds himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, well, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, or it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care.
I practically forgot I was on a live. Start scratching my nose.
Lead pipes and all
Sorry.
Causing health problems for people across
Still
the
here.
We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation.
That's something I was doing.
Thank you, President Biden.
Got to
President
use
Trump,
the.
you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Oh wow, we are to the closing
So
statement.
Politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this
This
tax.
is the
that
last
tax.
chance.
But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke.
You're
Because they don't respect you. They have to respect their president. And they
Haratuza Nanguru.
we rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like. Even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get when you're terminally ill. Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was an incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
Watched as a nation now, the first presidential
Okay.
debate of this election cycle.
Well,
This is the earliest presidential debate.
certainly wasn't anything totally absurd happened during this debate.
Acknowledge one another.
I probably should have been a little better prepared if I wanted to directly affect something going live on the thing there.
Former President Donald Trump walking in.
Oh, I turned it off. Watch something crazy happens after walking off the stage, and I'll have missed it. That'd be par for the course. But anyways, yes. Analyze results. I think part of the problem is that I tried to reach too far. I tried to push too far. We're liable to see some results past this from things that I did, but to try and actually, well, I wasn't really hoping. I mean, part of me was kind of hoping someone would start imitating a chicken on stage. But I am surprised they held together as well as they did, even without my workings. I think that's a big part of the problem here is I didn't do any readings as to whether this was going to work or not. I just assumed they were both right on the edge of going cuckoo birds. And I figured if I threw some chickens in with their cuckoo birds, they'd fly the roost. And it seems that, well, neither one of them are quite as easy to push as I had expected in that moment. So we got what we got. We will see what results develop from here, because just because I pushed now does not mean that momentum isn't going to keep moving forward. There's a lot of momentum on this. It's like I said, why I can't just simply let go of the spell at this point is because of all the momentum in it. Yeah. So there's momentum going forward. This isn't the end. Have to be honest with ourselves about results of what we do, though. And that's an important lesson here that we'll talk about for just a moment. Is you have to be honest with your results. You can't lie to yourself and be like, oh, this happened or that happened. We didn't have a whole lot of results here. There were a few times where Donald Trump kind of jerked his head. I didn't see any real effect on Biden that I can think of. I did spend a lot of it with my eyes closed and making noise. Maybe some of you guys noticed some stuff that I didn't. Y'all, I try not to use terms like you guys when I don't know who I'm speaking to, because I don't want to offend anybody. People get to have whatever gender they want. That's definitely my opinion on that. People are who they say they are. I mean, I take that for granted with everyone, for anything beyond gender, etc. Unless they come up and tell me they're a guru or something of that nature. They come up and say, "Hey, I'm the coolest person that ever lived." That I might question. extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. So, but having one's gender, that's not an extraordinary claim for sure. So the more amazing the thing you try to claim is, the more likely I have the question asked. Anyways, I am getting way off topic. I'm not sure if I'm even making sense. So, yes, not a lot of direct results from this particular working. It's important to take these things as they are and not try to convince yourself that there was things that wasn't there. Anyways, I think that's going to be it for this live. Thank you for joining me, especially those of you that stuck around this whole time. Like I said, I don't know if I'll do this for another debate, but we are going to be back to our regularly scheduled programming with the next video in the Sorcerer's Shadow Volume 2 series being The Momentum of a Moment. And we'll talk about how a pouch like this one works and what it's for, and how we can use that idea of what happens in a moment and carrying the momentum of it forward. Anyways, that is going to be it. Thank you for joining me. And bright blessings and an interesting fate. This has been Sorcerer Tau.